Eight, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hello. So good evening, good afternoon and good morning, depending where you are. Welcome to the 12th Dimension. Today, I'm joined by the wonderful Michelle Freed. I'll do a quick introduction. So Michelle is my US contact where, I suppose it's North America, isn't it? That you send me a list of different guests for coming on the show, and I'll go through them and choose them, send them back to you, and you arrange for them to come on. And that's how I know you. Yeah, can you hear me?
Okay. There's a little feedback. Yeah, there's a little feedback, or a delay. So I'm not sure if I heard your last question.
Is that any better?
I'm hearing myself.
Right. Sorry about this. I'm going to see if I can do anything in the video. How's that?
I think it's better. Yeah.
Right. I've just
I'm
changed
not hearing.
a couple of the settings.
I think. Oh no,
Right.
It's like a huge delay now.
Oh, is there? Sorry about this. I'm just trying to think what I could do. So I just check the settings quickly. Oh, dear. Right. How's that?
I think it might be better. Oh no, it's like a big huge delay. Like you'll say something and then I hear it probably 30 seconds later.
Right, okay. Could it be your headphones? The thing is, it was okay before we went live.
Yeah, it was fine. It was great.
And then it's probably YouTube. No. So there's not a lot I can do this side.
Okay. I think it might be better now.
Right.
Okay, I think I'm good.
Right,
I'm not hearing myself. Yeah? Okay. Yeah.
All right. Is that okay?
Sorry about that. Yeah, everything's good now.
It happens. Usually my camera cuts off and I have to restart the computer. So if that happens,
so we're good.
I'll literally be less than a minute. But no, I was just saying. So we've probably been talking roughly for about 12 months-ish via email. Yeah. So I didn't realize everything that you did. So you would send me a list of potential guests for the show, and I'd choose so many out of it and the dates that I've got and send them back to you. And then you'd arrange for them to come on and send me their bio and everything else. So that's how I know you, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I started this business during the pandemic. Because after, I used to work with Art Bell. I produced for his show. And when he passed away, they sold the network and we did kind of start a new network, but it wasn't making obviously the same amount of money as when we were with Art Bell. So I had to supplement my income. And I thought, because I talked to so many authors and they tell me the same story that, their publishers will help them up to a certain point and then they kind of move on to other projects. So I'm like, okay, I'll pick up where they leave off. And my background's in marketing. And so, now I just help people, kind of get more exposure.
Yeah. No, I'm guessing it's working well. It's going the way you want
so much fun. Yeah, I feel like I should have my doctorate in all things weird because I get to talk to, all these people that have researched and studied and, all that stuff. So I get to ask them my own personal questions too.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, cool. Can't beat that, can you?
No, it's great.
Oh. Right. So, talking about Belle, first question I'm going to ask her is, what was it like producing the Art Bell show, Midnight in the Desert?
Well, it was a cool experience. Like I said, I got to talk to. It was very easy to book because if you said Art Bell, people are jumping to get on the show. So I got to meet, a lot of cool people. I learned a lot about what happens behind the scenes, but also with the guests. Art was always wanting me to find really obscure guests, people that, have a different kind of story. And I found myself talking to a lot of people and, like experiencers, people that have they felt like they were abducted or something like that. And they're really afraid to talk about it in public because everybody makes fun of them or, they think they're crazy because they don't know what happened or anything like that. So it was a big learning experience for me.
Cool. Thank you. So you do the remote viewing, which, without sounding ignorant or anything, I only found out about 2 months ago. Like I was saying to you before,
really?
I didn't realize that you did all these different classes and everything else. So how did you get into that?
Well, I have a first a shout out to Space Cadet if she's listening. She's actually taking my class and she is so talented and I love her in my class. So if she's here, hi. Like about 10 or 11 years ago, I took my kids on a 2-month, over the summer, a 2-month like road trip around the United States. And I reconnected with a friend from high school who happens to be an author of books on psychic development. And she also teaches classes. And so we reconnected, and her name is Deborah Lynn Katz, if anybody is familiar with her. And she kind of said, take my class, you're intuitive, take my class. And I'm like, no, people are born with that. I don't have that. I don't know. So she talked me into it, and I took her class, and I just, I just kind of realized like everybody is intuitive, and these are just skills that you brush up with things that we already have. And then in one of the classes, she likes to just be spontaneous. So she taught us all, because she was learning remote viewing. So she kind of did an exercise with us. And what remote viewing is it's a protocol that was started by the military in the United States. And they called it Stargate, Project Stargate. And they had two physicists and a renowned or studied psychic who went through a whole bunch of testing. And I don't think they have certified psychics, but he went through that whole grueling testing, and he was, beyond statistically significant with hits. And so the three of them put together this protocol for the military, and then they vetted out people that they thought would make good remote viewers. And so one was very popular one, Joe McMoneagle, and there's Lynn Buchanan and Paul Smith and all these guys. And of course, I'm talking about the people that had it was Russell Targ, Hal Puthoff, and Ingo Swann. So they're like, I guess we could call them the forefathers. And then, so they worked, and their job was to kind of project their consciousness to a location and describe whatever they perceive. And so they were doing military things. So they were looking at things in Russia, they were looking at POWs, and they got a lot of intel using this kind of protocol. It goes into a lot of details, and people can read tons of books on it and research. And the Third Eye Spy documentary will talk a lot about what happened in those days. But in the 90s, they declassified the program, and all these guys retired, and they realized through all their work that anybody can do this. It's a skill, and if they teach what they know. So after I took that class with my friend, it was aligned with me. I felt really good doing it. And so I got trained by Joe and Lynn and Lori Williams, and then John Vivanco, who his protocol is more civilianized. And that's the one I work on, and I've been kind of making a few tweaks to it. But I like that one the best because it's just more like regular people than, military people. And so basically we're blind. It's, kind of a scientific protocol in the way that we're completely blind to the target. So back in the day, they used longitude and latitude as a target number, and they didn't tell anybody what the target was. They had no clue. So you just follow the method and you get information. So that's really what we do now. And what I love about it is that, you can't be biased, so if you walk into a target thinking it's one thing, since you don't know anything about the target, then you can be really pure. And so that's like the quick and dirty explanation of how it started and basically what it is.
Cool. Thank you. So with that, I'm just looking at the notes. So you do with the remote viewing. How does the past life regression come into it?
Well,
Or
so
is
that's
that
so that
separate?
yeah. So I'll talk about some other things, before we get to that.
Yeah.
And the fact that in my class, when I'm teaching people, I think one of the important things is that you learn more about yourself. And I kind of take people on this journey about how our subconscious works and how our conscious works, and how to work with both of them. And it's a way to reconnect with our intuition. So we do all sorts of targets. One thing that we work on are esoteric targets. Those are a lot of fun, like, are there aliens on the moon, or certain questions we have. I once had a whole paranormal investigation group take my class because they wanted to remote view the location before they went to investigate it, so they can get any background information or tidbits that they wouldn't know. So they did that. It also helps with our personal growth. And we also use it to find missing people and missing things and missing animals. So there are a ton of things that we can be looking at on a kind of deeper level, not just seeing the way things are. And so we've come up with quite a few interesting, bits of information. I even had some scientists that study climate change that hired me and a group of people, and they wanted some more information, and so we helped with that. That was a cool project to work with those people, and that's all written up too. I think I have the links on my website if people want to read the research. I've also done research experiments in remote viewing, which is really cool. And there's write-ups on my website as well. Because I want, when we hear the news and they talk about missing people, I want, or even the cops and detectives, I want them to call us first, not as a last resort, because we are getting information for people. We've done missing persons. Recently, I did the Moscow, Idaho. Did you guys hear about the Moscow, Idaho murders of the college students?
I didn't.
So one of the people on this team I work with, she lives in Idaho, and she knew the police there, and they asked us to remote view who the murderer was, and what was the murder weapon, and where was the murder weapon. And so that's an ongoing case. They found a suspect that looks really good for the murders, but obviously we're innocent until proven guilty. And then there's another form of remote viewing that people are doing, and it answers the question when we get asked, if you're psychic, how come you don't win the lottery, right? So there are people doing something called ARV, which is associative remote viewing, and they are winning the lottery, and they're wagering on sporting events. And they also have clients that are looking at the stock market, and they're using us to predict a future outcome. So, so it's everything. It's really cool. So getting to your question about past lives is, in remote viewing, you have a secret question that the viewers don't know about. So you can ask anything in that question. So if you say to somebody, go to a past life, and then bring back some kind of symbol or bring back a skill that you learned in that life and bring it back to this life. Then they just do this whole session, and, then they come up with results and things like that. So that's how we use past life regressions but I also do hypnosis and work with clients on that too.
Oh, right. Cool. Thank you. Sorry, my computer's just froze. So I'm just trying to... I might have to restart it. So if I ask you a question, if I restart the computer, and then I'll be back on, hopefully, before you finished answering it.
Okay.
Is that
All
okay?
right.
I can't
I'll
do
be
anything
just talking to the ether and any people listening. Okay.
I can't do anything with my keyboard or mouse. I can't click on any links or anything.
Yeah, no, that's totally fine.
So, right. So if you want to talk about hypnosis, then
The what?
hypnosis.
Oh, hypnosis. Okay.
Yeah, is that
So,
okay?
Sure.
I'll be 2 minutes, I promise.
Okay. So, so hypnosis is, I went searching for a field that I could work in that I could make money. And I thought hypnosis was basically the thing to do, because when I live in Chicago, and there's a lot of people that are really not into or ready to go down the path of psychic development. So hypnosis is really good, where it helps people stop smoking. And, if they bite their nails or they have fears of things. So it's a really good tool to use. And there's a very big misconception about hypnosis, where people, a lot of times they'll come up to me and say, well, I can't be hypnotized. Well, hypnosis is a natural state that we have. So the famous example is usually like, if you're driving your car and you miss your exit, you were hypnotized by the road. Or if you're watching TV and there's a commercial and they like open up a can of pop or something, or soda. I'm in the Midwest, I call it pop. You open up a can and all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I need a drink of pop. So really, we're hypnotized by focused attention. And then what comes in, where we get the therapeutic part, is when we start talking about the suggestions. So that's basically, so it's the power of suggestion, that when you hear the pop open, then you get thirsty. Or if I, just sat here and I described, pulling out of the refrigerator this big juicy lemon, and I smell it, and then I take out a knife and I cut that lemon, and the juices spray out and you can just smell the citrus. I bet a lot of people listening to this are already, their mouths are starting to water, and they don't even have a lemon in front of them. So it kind of, that's how it works. So we use it as a tool to help people get rid of, old programming that they don't want, or, you know, fears, or changing a habit of some kind. And then as I got more comfortable with it, I started getting people reaching out to me asking if I would regress them. A regression is like in this lifetime usually. So it's different than a past life, but it's a regression is in this life. So I've had people come to me and say that they feel like they were abducted, and they can't remember anything, and they want me to help them. So then we have a specific point that we regress back to, and then bring that memory forward so that they can talk about what's going on. So it's very cool.
Excellent. Thank you.
Welcome back.
Yeah, I know. It does it. Sometimes it just freezes and you can't hear me, and everything just shuts down. So I have to restart the computer. But this time it's just a mouse and keyboard because they're wireless.
Yeah.
Nothing. Just nothing. So quick restart and it's all good. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
So hopefully they didn't miss too much of that. But thank you for carrying on without me. we have got a couple of questions from Rick Allen, if you want me to ask him. So the first one, I would like to know, has Michelle seen something she wished she hadn't? I'm guessing that's during the remote viewing.
Yeah, that's a great question. I love it. I haven't seen something I wish I hadn't, because how remote viewing is set up, it's with intention. So I just set the intention that I'm going to perceive whatever the question is. And pretty much, I kind of stay in that mindset of whatever we're looking for. I had one incident where it was a little, I wasn't scared, but I was caught off guard. And I felt like I was remote viewing. Well, I didn't know at the time, but it ended up that I was remote viewing a benevolent alien. And what was happening is, as I was doing my session, that little voice in your mind that talks to you, your Jiminy Cricket, So I always have that. Like, I'm aware of that thing, it bugs me, and, sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad. And it was weird because I'm, doing my little session, following my things. And all of a sudden I noticed that that voice in my head wasn't mine. It was like a deep baritone voice. And it started hijacking the session. It was like, no, look at this. No, look at that. And I was kind of like, what is going on? So, in remote viewing, you write everything that you do. So I just wrote break. I took a break. And then I just kind of went, okay, what was that? And then I told the person I was working with that happened. And he said, our intention is a benevolent being. So, like, ask it who it is, what it wants to know, all that. So then I kind of turned in my session into this kind of weird experience where I'm kind of talking to this being. And it kind of, like, I'm not a channeler, but I guess you would call this a channel. But it was almost as if it was telling me a bunch of stuff, and all I did was write down what my mind was kind of hearing or knowing. And it was just kind of some personal information. It was, I can't remember everything it said, but it was something that you have to go back and look at and kind of analyze, because some of it is metaphoric, some of it is real. It was just, I never had that happen before. I'm pretty grounded as a person, so I don't usually have weird things happen, but that was pretty weird. And then it gets better. When I went to bed that night, I first of all had trouble falling asleep. I was kind of tossing and turning, which is unusual. And I felt like I was falling backwards in the dark. And so that was weird. I woke up and I felt this sensation of like energy, like pushing out of my body, like whoosh. And then I felt like I was drugged, like, like, I don't know if anybody's, if you have to have surgery or something and they knock you out and then you're waking up and you're really out of it. And I had like a little headache. And so that was really weird. So I asked my friend, like, hey, and he goes, I had a dream also. I had something similar to that happen. And then there was a third person working on this project, and she's like, well, I was smoking weed, so you can't count on me. I'm like, okay. She goes, weird things happen all the time. So but me and the other guy were like, whoa, something definitely happened. So we're just like, I wonder if he like visited. I don't know. Could be, I can't prove it, but it was a very weird experience.
So something strange.
That was a good question, though.
Yeah. Jumping on that question, have you ever I don't know if it's possible, gone to the wrong location when you've done the remote viewing?
Yeah, that can happen, especially in the protocol called ARV. What
Yeah.
happens is I started getting, I don't know if we want to go into the kind of behind, I do this in my class, but I'll give you a little bit of it. So I break down kind of like what's going on in our brain, the
Yeah.
subconscious and the conscious, and then there's also the unconscious. And we break it down into three parts. And what happens, and the reason why when people do psychic readings or make predictions or whatever, the reason why we aren't always correct is because the part of our brain, the left brain, is
Yeah.
responsible for making sure that everything makes sense.
Right.
And like Joe McMoneagle said to me, he goes, in order to be a world-class remote viewer, you have to give up what it is to be human. And that
Right.
is what it is to be human. We need to make sure that everything makes sense. So
Yeah.
if I describe to you something is red, it's shiny, and it's round, your mind's going to go, oh, an apple,
Yeah.
because it makes sense. It would be red, shiny, and round. So your go-to would be, oh, an apple. But what if I
Yeah.
told you, no, the target is a fire truck, which is also red, shiny, and round. So we have to be able, and with a lot of practice, we have to be able to kind of turn down your left brain and turn up your right brain so
Right.
that your left brain doesn't dominate the session. And, and that this is a big struggle with all of us because guess what? We are human and it can
Yeah.
take us to the wrong direction, which is like, for example, the ARV. What's significant about that is that we're viewing photos. And so,
Yeah.
for example, say it was a baseball game and you take one photo, and both photos are completely opposite. So, one photo is going to represent one team, and the other
Yeah.
photo is going to represent the other team. And your directions to your subconscious is to go to the photo that they're going to send you at the end of the game. So obviously, they're only going to show you the one photo of the team that won.
Yeah.
So you're only going to see that photo. So you have to teach your subconscious to only like take a peek into the future and only see the one photo. Because
Right.
when you're
Got
going
you.
through the future, you're seeing both, but you have to
Yeah.
train yourself to go to the right one. And so
Yeah.
it happens so often that we see the wrong one that we have a word for it and we call it displacement. And it is a
Right.
challenge to overcome. But when everything is operating efficiently, you one of our experiments that we did, we used our dreams to predict a future outcome on sporting events. And so we're
Yeah.
supposed to go to sleep, dream about the photo, do a session in the morning, and then they make a prediction on the game. So we had, I
Yeah.
think we ended up with like a 68% hit rate. So that is above statistically significant. So
Yeah.
we call that a success. So we did
Right.
make money. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. Next question. So this is from Rick again. Has Michelle encountered a cryptid?
Yes. In life or in remote viewing?
Oh,
Um,
either or both.
in life, no. No. Of course, I've met some people that I think are cryptid, but I don't think they're officially one.
Right.
And I stay away from those people. But in remote viewing, yes, somebody gave me a target of the target was actually they wanted to know if the Patterson Gimlin footage was a
Oh.
hoax. And
Right.
and mine came up that it was not a hoax. And
Right.
which I was, kind of shocked by it. But yeah, that was a very interesting. It was interesting because I had a monitor And I was doing the session, and at one point he said, okay, stand up. And I'm like, well, I feel like a very tall female, like a basketball player. I feel like my arms are really long and I'm just
Yeah.
really big. And my left brain was saying, my left brain was saying, wanted everything to make sense. So you don't normally see very big, large women, with big bones like that. So I wanted to switch my thought to calling it male. But then I said, no, don't switch it. It's definitely a female. And so because of that, I feel like that was a strong session, because a lot of people believe that Bigfoot was a female.
Yeah.
So, and all I had was a target number. I had no clue that I was remote viewing a Bigfoot. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah. So when you was doing the remote viewing for Bigfoot, do you feel like, because you were saying you felt like you was a large female, do you feel like you're part of what you're remote viewing?
There are things where you can do, I really trust my monitor, and my monitor said once I came, like, the monitor can't add any information that I didn't say. So I had already determined that I was a subject. I didn't know yet. In the beginning, I just felt I'm a non-human subject. That's all we got.
Right.
So then they will say, well, I want you to blend with the non-human subject. And so because I felt safe with my monitor, I felt like I could blend with the non-human subject. But sometimes if you don't trust the people, you don't really want to blend with an unknown. But I did blend. And at a certain point when I'm, because they say touch your body and describe, I did not feel like, I don't even know how to explain. I knew I was touching my own arm, but I felt it hairy. Like when my hand went like through it, I'm like, oh, there's a lot of hair. It was like a knowing, but it can't describe how I knew. It just, as I was, and as you go throughout your session, your trance state gets deeper and deeper. So you're not really aware. And there's some people that actually bilocate. And that means that they actually, part of themselves are at the target. And, and then they can kind of direct themselves to get more, especially if it's a missing person. If you can bilocate, end up at the target, and then just look for details, like if you can find a street sign or a shape of a rock or something that
some
will
sort of
help
landmark.
Yes. And then that will help the police, which we did do. We did, like, we triangulated an area, and because the detectives knew the area where I didn't even know if it was a boy, a girl, male or female. I didn't know what part of the world. I knew I was doing a missing person, but I had no clue anything else except for it's missing person. And I ended up finding, I think, 3 or 4 landmarks. And what they did was they took out their map and they said, oh, she said like a dilapidated building, a forest, there was a body of water, and then some kind of big rock. And so they looked on the map and they found this area, and there were other people working on the project too. So it wasn't only mine. And they were able to find, it ended up being a boy, a college kid. The building, which I described like a shack, was actually a bar. And he got drunk and took the road by the water and got on a boat. And the boat capsized and he died from a head injury. So my miss was, I thought I saw blood on his head, but he was near a rock. I didn't see him in the water. I saw him out of the water. So it was kind of like, it wasn't quite right, but it was enough to help them.
Enough to find
him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow. That must, so I suppose when you find somebody and they're not alive, it must be a bit, I don't know.
Yeah, not everybody can
Over
do. Yeah,
emotional.
yeah, not everyone can do a true crime. You have to make sure you can handle it, especially, if you're looking at a murder, you might, start getting, emotionally connected to the murder. But
Yeah.
we have, because of the training, we teach you what to do in those cases and how to handle them. And,
Right.
and then, if people say, no, that's not for me, then they can look for
Yeah.
missing treasures.
All right.
Then there's a lot of
Yeah.
missing treasures.
Yeah, I
So
think
it's very,
I'd rather do that one, to be honest.
yeah, we
Yeah.
had a woman, she's from the UK actually. What was her name? Um, Shoot, her name left me, but she writes all these books on the Knights of the Templar.
Right.
And she was on Oak Island, the Mysteries of Oak Island. I don't
Yeah.
know. Do you guys get that show? Okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so she's been on that show a few times. And I was talking to her actually to become a client of mine at LITM Media.
Yeah.
And so we were talking, and then all of a sudden, I kind of brought up remote viewing. I said, when you write your next book, you should have us help you because we might be able to put you on a track or kind of
Yeah.
collaborate
Like
on
director.
something. So she's like, yeah, as a matter of fact, and we were on like a Zoom, so kind of like we
Yeah.
are now. And she pulls out a statue that it's a wooden statue and it has a person on it kind of sitting in a position. I'm like, don't tell me anything. I don't want to know anything. So I set up a project and I had three remote viewers view the statue. Of course, they didn't know it was a statue, but they were
Right.
getting carved wood or some of their descriptions. They were getting this spiritual connection, and that family was really important to this subject, and a whole bunch of stuff that matched. And it turned out that this statue was found, and the person who found it wanted, like, there was no information about, there's some interesting symbols carved into the statue and a whole bunch of other things, but what they suspect is that it was Sir Henry Sinclair, where they think that this was a statue of him,
Yeah.
and I think they found it in a church, and there are rumors about Henry Sinclair that he has connections to the Knights of the Templar. And so if
Right.
everything adds up, we can prove that during his voyages that he was either funded by the Knights of the Templar or had some kind of other connections. So that
Right.
is that, right? Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm telling you, this stuff is just crazy. I love
Yeah.
it. I'm so obsessed.
Yeah.
I'm so obsessed with it.
Oh, thank you. Do another question. Is that okay? So this one's from Ancient Ruby, and she wants to know: does Michelle feel like she's being monitored constantly?
No, I don't. And that's also part of the training. We put up protection, and sorry,
Okay.
because because remote
Yeah.
viewing is all about intention. It's all connected to intention. So we kind of set up very strong protections about it. Plus, I always have a benevolent intention. So if we're looking at these strange things, and maybe there are some negative things, I'm really focusing on the benevolent, the good parts of them.
Yeah.
Unless I'm purposefully want to find out something negative, then I go in, I have all my protection set up, and I don't go in where I'm not supposed to. There
Right.
are people that I know very well that have gone to places and they felt kicked out or blocked up.
Yeah, I've
which
heard
is
that
really,
before.
yeah, that they were looking at things they weren't supposed to be seeing, and they definitely got the message that they need to get out. You know,
Yeah.
and it's funny because on their session they'll write "get out," and you're like,
Ah.
oh, okay, maybe they weren't supposed to be there.
Yeah, it's time
So
to leave.
yeah,
Yeah.
your
Oh,
subconscious is very curious and it wants to go to whatever's interesting. So even if I give someone a target, their subconscious might be like, that's so boring, I don't want to do that, I want to go over here. And
yeah,
so if you don't train it to follow the directions, it's like a kid, and it's gonna do what
yeah,
it wants to do.
yeah. No, sorry, Ruby's just added on to it. She meant by the government. Do you feel like you're being monitored by the government?
Right. No, I do, that's what I was actually talking about. Well, we're not sure if it's a government, but we were looking at a part of the alien, I guess the question, I don't remember it exactly, but the question had something to do with like some kind of alien beings on the moon. I think it was if there were ever aliens, or it
Right.
was Mars. I don't remember. It's hard to remember. It was a long time
Yeah.
ago.
It's
But
one
if
or
it
the
was
other.
either checking, yeah, Mars or the moon, he got kicked out. And we're not sure if it was a government or some kind of, you know, something, not spiritual, but something that didn't
Yeah.
want us to see something. So that does. So I'm not sure if it was the government or not, but something,
Right.
something.
Yeah. So that'll bring me to the next question then. So this is from Ancient Ruby again. What places has Michelle remote viewed? Has she ever seen what is on Mars?
Yeah. So okay, this I bilocated, or I had astral projection,
Yeah.
and ended up on the moon, and how it was more like it wasn't really remote viewing. It was more like I spent a year working on astral projection, being able to just pop out of my body whenever I wanted to.
Yeah.
So I was working with a partner, and we decided that in order to kind of get more excited about our intention of where we want to go in our projection, we decided let's meet together and have a picnic
Yeah.
on the moon. And we were very specific. We said Sideria. I think it's called Sideria,
Right.
something like that. And
Yeah.
we'll have a picnic, and then we talked about like what kind of food should we bring. We just charged it
Yeah.
up with
Yeah.
energy and excitement.
Yeah.
So, of course, just like in life, I got stood up, and he didn't show up. So I was by
Oh.
myself. And I remember putting the blanket out, and it was pink. And then I thought, oh, I can change that to blue. So I made it blue, and I sat down, and my hand kind of went into the sand.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay. And I looked at my hand, and it had markings on it that looked like henna, like when you get a
Oh dear.
henna color on your hand. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And then I'm like, but this is so soft. It's like powdery. And then I put my feet in. And I'm like, whoa, this feels like powder, not sand. It was so unexpected. So
Yeah.
I finished up, and then I called my friend and I said, do you know what the sand is like on Mars? And he's like, no, look it up. So I looked up, and I found an article that described the sand on Mars and used the word talc, like talcum powder.
Ah. Yeah.
And I'm like, there's no way I would have known that the sand is really soft like that. If,
No.
I wouldn't have known if I wasn't there. So and
No.
then another time we went to the pyramids,
Yeah.
and something prompted me to look under the pyramids. And so
Right.
I kind of traveled underground, and I saw some kind of, it was like a piping system underneath the pyramid,
Oh
but it was
right. Okay.
made of gold. It was like having a dream within a dream, because
Yeah.
they were all made of gold. And I wondered, how who made this? Like, how was it made? I had a dream within a dream going back into the past where I saw them making little not aluminum, but it was made of gold, melted like squares of gold and
Right.
very thin that looks like aluminum. And they were melting them in these tubular structures under,
Yeah.
like maybe carrying water throughout it. So after that happened, I asked, because I know some people that study the pyramids, I went and asked
Yeah.
somebody, is there something like about 12 feet or more under the pyramids that we don't know about? And he said, there is a theory. We can't, they have it all blocked off and we're not allowed to go to certain places in the pyramid like we used to. But
Yeah.
there is a theory that there was a whole water system under the pyramids. And, I was just like floored, like, wow, that's crazy.
It wasn't, sorry, the person you spoke to, it wasn't Stephen Myers, was it?
No, it was Robert, uh, gosh, I'm so bad with names right now.
No,
Robert,
no,
he has a weird last name. Um, I have his book. I just don't remember. Sorry. Robert Good.
it's okay.
I think he was on Ancient Aliens. Like, he's also on Ancient
Ah,
Aliens.
right, okay. No, because there's a guy who's on last year, Stephen Myers, is coming back on again this year, and he believes
Oh,
that the Great Pyramid. He believes the Great Pyramid was used as a water pump for energy, and then with you
yeah,
saying that about the pipes underneath, we kind of make that connection.
exactly. Yeah. I mean, I wish we could look. It would be so
Yeah,
cool if we could be like Indiana Jones and
I
like,
know. Yeah, getting
or
chased
Mission
by
Impossible
the
or something.
boulders and
Yeah.
all the traps and like mousetrap, isn't it, all the way
Oh
through?
yeah. 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 Yeah.
But no,
That would be
I'm going to
so
be
cool.
speaking to him. I'm going to be speaking to him soon, so I'll mention that to him and see what
Yeah,
he
I would
comes back
love
with.
that. Yeah, see what he says. I specifically, they were gold and it was like a kind of like a all going under, it
Yeah.
reminded me of, like when you go into those factories and they have all the big,
Oh, all
huge
the
pipes
yeah,
on the ceiling and they go in
yeah,
all
yeah, yeah.
different directions. That's what it looked like, but it was underground and it was made of gold. So,
Right. Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to be
Yeah.
speaking to him in a couple of weeks, so I'll mention it and see what he come. I said, see what he comes back with, and I'll let you know what he
I
says.
would love that. Yeah, that would be cool.
Excellent. Thank you for that. No, it just triggered it. That was all. And it's like, oh, that was it's just 1-on-1 made two then, and not eight.
I know. I love every time I give the target of the pyramids, people always
Yeah,
have power and energy in their session. All like it never fails. They always
yeah.
associate it with, and they don't, again, they just get a target number and they don't know they're viewing the pyramids. And every time there's some kind of energy, power source, something like that. And they do get water. And yeah, it's pretty cool.
Right. No, thank you. Right, my computer's just froze again. So if we do one more
Oh no.
question, I know it's I don't know what's going on. If you do one more question, I'll reboot it and then we'll go for a break after. Is that okay? Because we're coming up to the 1
Sure.
hour mark. So
Okay. Sure.
click. I can't even click the question, so I'll just have to read it out. So it's from Ancient Ruby. Does Michelle share info with the military stroke government or hired?
Say that again.
Does Michelle share information with the military or government or hired? Question mark.
So I was hired by Homeland
Question mark.
Security back in was it 2019. They wanted us to look at the Olympics that were going to happen in 2020. So I guess that's part of the government. Sometimes We don't know who the person is hiring us because that might give something away. So a lot of times I don't know who the person is, but you can kind of tell when you find out what they're looking at. But yeah, the Homeland Security, that was a really because that happened. The Olympics were meant to happen in during the pandemic, and obviously we were remote viewing a year before, and in my session I had a couple weird things. Like one thing was that I was seeing like some kind of disaster because I saw piles of kind of wood and trash, and it was just a mess. So I felt like it was either like weather related or maybe an explosion. I felt more weather related. Again, I always have to say this. We didn't know what we were looking, and we didn't know that it was Homeland Security. We had no clue. And then as I kept going through the session, I was getting information that made me think that I was looking at a computer and a computer virus. And so I finished up the session, I sent it in, and we didn't really hear much back from Homeland Security. But during the pandemic, around when the Olympics were supposed to be played, I started thinking about my session, and I thought to myself, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I was talking about with your left brain and your right brain. My left brain assumed or drew a conclusion that because I had a computer, that I was looking at a computer virus, but I didn't put together until a year later that a virus, a real virus, like a germ virus or whatever.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot from that because I'm like, wow, I messed up, but I didn't, but I did. So yeah, it was
No, I know what
cool.
you mean. She also asked, did you get paid for it? Did they pay you even?
One when we were doing climate change, that we got paid for, but the Homeland Security we didn't. And I don't usually take money for, missing persons. I
Yeah.
don't, especially if it's a kid or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't take money, but we'll do those for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a bit different, isn't it? Taking it from a big corporation rather than a family that are looking for somebody.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Are we good to go for a break?
Sure.
Is that okay? Hopefully I can get this sorted. I think it was the connector that I'm using for my mouse and keyboard. It sounds like there's
Oh,
something loose inside it. So
okay.
it's gonna go in the bin and get destroyed.
Okay.
So hopefully I'll have
Whatever
it sorted
works.
in 5 minutes. So right, I'll see
Okay,
you
cool.
guys then. And thank you for the first half. Right, see you soon.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hello, and we are back. Oh, perfect break that. Right.
Woo!
Yeah. So can we talk about abductees?
Mm-hmm. Sure. So the ones that I started to talk about in hypnosis, what was really weird is in the course of a year, I had 3 clients that came to me at 3 separate times, like months apart. None of them knew each other, and they were in different parts of, one was in Canada, one was in Illinois, and one was in California. And all 3 of them came to me to regress them, to remember what happened, and they all described a very similar experience where they were in water, breathing water, underwater, and none of them, they had a lot of trouble describing colors because there were like colors that they didn't know existed, and the vegetation was different and the life forms were different in there. It was really the first one happened, I already thought, whoa, that's wow. But then I had the second one months later, and I'm like, wait, 2 people? And then the third one, even more months later, also had the same kind of experience. And I was just like, is this a thing? So maybe there's something, and I've been asking, listeners to shows that I've done, if, I'd love them to reach out to me and let me know if they've had a similar experience. And, maybe we can kind of put this all together and see what's going on. It would be interesting.
Yeah. No, thank you. Next question is from Joe Weeks, the moderator. She wants to know, has Michelle ever remote viewed a cryptid apart from Bigfoot?
No, I haven't. Aliens, we do like crafts, and we've remote viewed the Tic Tac. And I'm not sure if you are familiar with the Baltic Sea anomaly. That was something. Yeah, there's a ton of things.
Oh, can you talk about that then? The Baltic Sea anomaly.
So are you familiar with it?
No, never heard of it.
Okay, so in the Baltic Sea, I think they first found this kind of some kind of structure very, 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 very deep in the Baltic Sea. I think it was seen from a satellite. You can look on YouTube. You just put Baltic Sea anomaly, and it's not really easy to get really that far down. So there were these, a group of documentary filmmakers that rented one of those, vehicles that can go pretty deep. And because they were, so they were trying to figure out. So I decided, hey, I can't go there, at least in physical form. So let me ask my remote viewers. And basically the question was, is this a natural structure or is it a man-made structure? And almost everyone said it was a man-made structure, and they were getting a lot of information that felt like otherworldly and, describing different, just something like that. There was also a number of people that were looking, making comparisons to Atlantis, the people of Atlantis, that maybe this was left over from them, which was really interesting to look at too. And so that was really interesting, getting those kinds of information. And especially when you have new remote viewers and the whole group of them and they get very similar data, that's always so interesting to me, that they're all getting very similar stuff. So that kind of drives it.
No. Oh, thank you. Next question is from Rick Allen. Does Michelle have a faith that is part of her work?
No. Like faith as in religion? No. Faith in that I believe that we are more than our physical body, and that I feel like the next, we're on a paradigm shift where we're about to cross over into learning this consciousness of ourselves, what are, like that Zen, who are we, why are we here, what's our purpose? But we already know that we have so much more potential that we're not even using. And I think remote viewing is I think it one of the things we focus on, that mind and body connection. We're always fine-tuning our senses to pick up things. A lot of times when we're teaching people to remote view, we're asking them, smell. What do you smell at the target? A lot of times I'll say, like, if they get some kind of water, I'll say, taste it, lick it, lick the target, taste it. And, because that can determine, like, if you're doing a missing person, you can tell if it's ocean water. There's a difference between ocean water than, a stream of water in the mountains that tastes like sweet or minerally or something like that. So, we're always, so I think faith is, faith in our potential. So I wasn't sure if that's a religious question or kind of a spiritual question.
Right. I think it's a bit of both, to be honest. No, thank you. Right. Next question. From Ancient Ruby. So this is what we was talking before the break. Do you believe in climate change?
So I mean, I believe that there is some things happening. I always believe in change. I believe a little of, I don't know how to answer that. Let's see. I believe that something is going on, but I also think it's a normal cycle of the earth. And I think that maybe some of the things that we're doing, polluting the air, maybe it could be making it work a little faster. And, there are things that we could do to kind of slow it down a little bit. Because if you look at, I always love watching those science shows like The Universe or whatever. They show a kind of calendar based on like how long humans have really existed. And it's like the tiniest, like if you look at a timeline, it's so tiny. We haven't really been here very long. It's funny. And we're already kind of having some changes, but I have hope that we will, whatever happens, that we will adapt and, just keep moving on.
No, thank you for that. Next question then is from Ancient Ruby. Have you ever remote viewed your friends?
Well, I with their permission, yes. We always with permission. A lot of people will ask. We had one person that we were remote viewing, and we wanted to know if they should stay at their current job or take another job that was offered to them. So we did something like that. We remote viewed a friend of mine had a picture of herself with a whole bunch of orbs in the photo. So we remote viewed that. to like, what are these things? And and we were getting that they were these, they were actually life forms that
Right.
were infinite. They were infinite light forms, and they didn't have a beginning and they didn't have an end, but they had somewhat of a consciousness. They were aware. And
Right.
yeah, it was really, and in my session, I was kind of drawing what looks like, our arteries and our all the vessels, and,
Yeah. Yeah.
it looked, so my sketch that I drew kind of looked like some kind of, blood, how blood kind of travels. And so
Oh,
I kind of
yeah.
saw these orbs as traveling through these, like, branching out, and that kind of thing. It
Yeah.
was interesting, very interesting session. Um, we've also remote viewed, when I was moving. Somebody tasked me to remote view where I'm going to live. Um, Also, what kinds of foods should I stay away from?
Yeah.
And then we remote view if somebody has some kind of physical discomfort, we will go to the source of where that's
Yeah.
going on. So all those, yeah, we do that a lot.
Oh, right. Cool. Thank you. So I'm just looking for the questions now. So, from Rick
Mhm.
Allen. So when he was asking about, do you have faith? He's asking, do you believe in life after death?
I do. I have done so many past lives with people, and the amount of details that they have, and especially my brother, who doesn't believe in all this stuff. And when I
Right.
was going to hypnosis school, I would use any family members to practice on. And
Yeah.
so, of course, I did a past life regression on him. And when he was telling me where he was, I mean, because I know my brother, like, I knew him from the time he was born.
Yeah.
And he was very much speaking in a way that I was not familiar with. And the details, like, yeah, the details were crazy that he's not like that. And so I was like, something is going on here. And then
Ah,
I myself have experienced, and I feel the same way. Like, I can't possibly know these things. Like, I know me. I don't know
yeah.
this.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely, I feel like, um, I imagine our souls to be like having holes in our souls,
Yeah.
and we come back in each lifetime with a mission, and we want to fill up all those holes to become a complete soul, and then we return to source from there. So as we're kind of going through the course of our life, there's certain people, that are helping us, giving us the opportunity to choose to fill up those holes, and make, have an experience that makes us complete. So you
Yeah.
do have to come back as any, kind of like the multiverse. You have to come
Yeah.
up
Yeah.
in any kind of pattern, to have that kind of experience. So
Right.
yeah, I know that's, yeah, it's not just this.
No. No. Thank you for that. Next question is of Ancient Ruby. So, do you get smells and taste when you remote view?
Absolutely, without a doubt. In fact, we encourage it a lot.
Yeah.
We learned that, I'm trying to remember, I think it's Benston, Dr. Benston. Again, I'm not so good with names, but I think it's him. He did, a project with a bunch of college students, and he wanted to prove that we kind of have a precognition, or that our senses can let us know things before they happen.
Yeah.
And that is something, like, when we were primitive, we kind of needed those things. So what he did was he loaded up a computer with a whole bunch of photos, and some were provocative and some were just trees and flowers, nothing. And he just had a student sit in front of the computer and advance the frames, and they were connected with, brain sensors, and their heart was being monitored and all the things. And what they found is that before people advanced to the next picture, and it was a provocative one, they would get, upticks, and their heart rate would increase, their breathing, all this stuff. And that was before they even saw the photo. So he was able to prove that we sense things before they happen.
Yeah.
And then it just takes time to kind of define what just happened. So we use those concepts in remote viewing. So we engage everything, like when you're doing your session, we want you, we'll direct you, like if you're getting some kind of flat surface, we'll tell you, like, imagine, put your hand through that surface. What do you notice? Then people can say, oh, it's solid, or they can say it's hollow. We'll say, smell. Is there anything? What do you smell? Can you describe the smells? One time someone took me into the target was a tea shop that they knew of in Amsterdam. That was the target they gave me for practice. And I was smelling what I called, like, I described it as like, like a cigar smell, like different flavors I would smell. And that was interesting because it was like a tea shop in Amsterdam. So, so I was getting some hits, like smelling.
Yeah.
Those things are really important, even when we're aware of them. But also in remote viewing, we want people to use their body because it helps you engage in the target. It gets more information.
Yeah. So when you've done remote viewing, can you, like you said, he's going to meet up with that other person and do that picnic where you did the astral projection. When you remote view, are you able to see other remote viewers?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you'll get a kind of in remote viewing, you don't actually, you get information in bits and pieces. So you might get an essence that someone's there, but and a knowing, maybe you don't always like flat out see the person. You might just get an idea that someone's there. That's kind of how it would work. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
One day we should do like a remote viewing experiment and have your listeners actually do it, and then have a target, like a photo at the end, and see if they can remote view. That would be fun.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be good. Yeah, definitely up for that. So Michelle is asking. Sorry, I'm trying to find. There it is. So, because I know you do missing people, but have you ever remote viewed any missing 411?
Any missing 411? Oh, the 411? No, I didn't work. No, I did not work on that. There are so many cases. I don't work on that.
No.
On that one. I've had so many come to me that I just haven't had a chance to. So, but I'm not against it.
Yeah. So have you ever turned any down, any remote viewing? So say someone's got in contact with you and they've asked you to remote view something, and it's something you're not willing to do?
Yeah, the only time I would turn something down is if I didn't trust them. And that's the only time. But no, I'm too like addicted. Like any chance I get, I'm gonna remote view.
So has anyone asked you to spy on anyone to see what they're up to?
No, because I'm hanging out with but there's like an ethical thing. I don't like. Yeah, I like to ask permission because I think you know, even if you're going to spy on someone, like to get a lot of good information, that person also has to be open for you to look. You know,
Yeah.
if somebody's not expecting, you know, just imagine in real life, if someone's spying on you, you know, they wouldn't like it so much. So it would
No.
kind of be the same kind of thing. But, you know, the thing is that there are people out there that don't have the best intentions. And because this stuff is real and it does
Yeah.
happen, like you can get lots of people that kind of take advantage like that. So,
Yeah. No, thank you. Right. So in the notes that I've got a bit that says Skinny Bob.
yeah, are you familiar with Skinny Bob?
I've heard of it, but I'm not 100% on the full story or
So
facts.
so it's a video that was leaked out. They say by some Russian, like
Yeah.
intelligence, and so far it hasn't really been debunked. And so the person I was working with wanted us to remote view the reality of Skinny Bob, whether it's a
Right.
hoax or not a hoax. And we were, for that one, what was really interesting is that we were all kind of tuning into the emotional of this subject. We were tuning into like the this kind of thread of emotions that they were feeling. So
Yeah.
they were feeling angry because they felt abandoned by the other people. They felt frustrated because they keep asking him the same questions. You know, lonely and sad and, you know, stuff like that. So we were getting, some really good stuff. There's a video, I think it's under John Vivanco, and it would be really cool to watch because he shows clips of what the session looks like and what we drew and what we said
Right.
that
Yeah.
match. And you can see what remote viewing looks like when we put the you know, the whole summary together,
Yeah.
the compilation of everybody's session, and then you have the narration where John is narrating what was going on and what our conclusions were. So
Yeah.
that was very, very interesting. Very interesting
Right. So
information.
who or what is Skinny Bob?
Well, we were getting that it was a non-human subject,
Yeah.
and you know, a lot. I didn't have anything that called them the Greys, but from the video, it could be that they are from this
Yeah.
being. And there was some other information that we found out that there were supposedly family members, and
Yeah.
he wasn't the only one that lived. There were some other ones that lived too.
Right.
So
Okay. Oh.
I don't know. Who knows? Like, I would love
Yeah.
to get really good feedback and know for sure. We also, Tom DeLong, are you familiar with Tom DeLong?
Oh. Sorry.
Okay, so he's part of the music group Blink 40 something,
Oh, Blink
45 or
182.
Blink
Yes. I
118,
know
thank
you
you.
mean. Yeah, I know what you mean
And
now.
he started the organization To the Stars Academy.
Yeah.
And he is another person that hired us. I didn't know it was him.
Yeah.
And I was also getting, so we just got a target number. He paid us also, so that was nice. But if we knew it was him, then for sure we would have aliens in our session. But
Yeah.
we didn't know it was him. And I did get aliens in my session. There
Ah,
were these life forms. This is interesting. They were holding the spherical kind of blue energetic ball thing.
yeah.
They were holding them. And and that was, very interesting. Um, and there were a whole bunch of them lined up, and I can't remember what their purpose was. I think their purpose was for good. I think it was like an enlightenment thing or some kind of technology that they wanted to introduce to us. I think that
Oh, right.
this spherical thing was some kind of energy source with technology. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Cool. Very interesting. So did you not
I
find out
know.
what it was or what it was for?
No. Mm-mm. Because after we sent in, I don't know what happened, but he just severed contact with us. And we
Right.
tried to get back to him to get like more feedback about what we were looking at, like kind of like take our information and see if it matches with what he's come up with or
Yeah.
whatever. And it was kind of strange because he didn't, the project manager reached out and said, hey, can we get on Zoom and have all the viewers come on and talk about this? And he never responded. So, but he
Right.
paid everyone. So everyone got,
Yeah.
$100. It was like mama needs a new pair of shoes money, right? What, $100, but
Yeah.
it's good to get paid to do something you love doing.
Yeah. Well,
So
yeah.
yeah,
It's always a bonus, isn't it? So have
yeah,
you
for
have you
sure.
ever had any paranormal encounters? Like yourself?
Um, Let me think. Paranormal. Well, I've had, some personal things, but I've never been on the side of being an investigator or anything like that.
Right.
But I did get to go on one paranormal investigation in Nashville. It was I think it was Nashville, a train museum. I think it was like a railroad museum.
Oh, right. Okay.
And so it was my first experience. And I was like, whoa. Um, every the cameramen like were literally changing the batteries out of the camera like every
Yeah.
half hour.
It's
I
just
was like,
getting
oh my
drained.
god. Yeah. And then they had like a tape recorder thing and
Yeah.
they downloaded like I think like 800 or 1,000 words. And we went into this one room. It was like overnight and they put them
Yeah.
on the floor, two of them, and they were talking to each other and they
Oh,
were
right.
making sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was like someone would ask a question, and then the two
Yeah.
thing would answer, but appropriately. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh. And then just as we're leaving, I saw on one of the windows a handprint. Because
Yeah.
there was condensation on the window, so the handprint started here and went down, and it looked like a
Ooh.
kid's hand. It was very small.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
So
that's
that
creepy.
I didn't remote view it, but I did. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
yeah. But I think,
Hmm.
it'd be really cool to remote view before you investigate an area
Yeah.
and then verify everything, find out.
Yeah.
That,
No,
that would
it'd
be,
be good. Cool. So do you want to talk about these courses that you've got lined up in is it March and April?
yeah. So, I teach all like everything that I brought up. So I teach, the, it's a remote viewing, um, kind of more civilianized. We use a lot of our mind and body part of it. And that's a 6-week course. It's just a basic remote viewing, from beginning to end. And then I created a hybrid transdimensional
Yeah.
class, which is also 6 weeks. But this one is more for people that want to work with healing or they want to do true crime and want to be able to, kind of get details about a person or maybe a physical illness or something. Like, for
Yeah.
example, if it's like a true crime and say the person's missing a finger, you'll be able to tell that, or they have a certain kind of tattoo, you'll be able to sketch something out. So I kind of created that as a hybrid. And then I also teach, I'm in the classes right now with ARV, which is really with a binary target. So anything you want to know, yes or no to. Yes or
Yeah.
no, up or down, over, under, like for the stock market, you can say at this time, Monday at 3 o'clock, will the stock go up or the stock go down at 3 p.m. Central? And then you make your
Right.
predictions and and then so it's cool stuff.
Cool. Yeah. So I think Joe's just put the links up, scrolling across the bottom.
Oh, good. Thank you,
Yeah.
Joe.
So they're both on there, but all the details are in the description on YouTube anyway. So
The
I'll
description and my website, and you can fill out the form if you have additional questions. I'm always happy to answer all those questions and keep the discussion going, because I really want everybody in the whole world to be doing this. That's
yeah,
the goal.
yeah. No,
So
it would be good. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about? Anything you've not
Um,
covered?
no, I think we're good unless you have more questions.
No, they don't. No, not many questions. Not many people asking questions tonight. I think, unless anyone else has got any. No, that's right. I'm just waiting to see if anyone puts anything up in the chat.
Yeah.
You see, it's running slow tonight because it's coming up on YouTube, and it's about a minute before it comes up on StreamYard, and I can't click anything until it comes up on StreamYard.
Oh, okay. I see.
Yeah. Oh, Joe's
That's
just
cool.
asking. Sorry. Have you ever found any missing pets?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, we do that all the time. Missing
Ah,
pets, and a lot of people come to us for missing keys or
yeah.
their wedding ring. Yeah, all those things
Oh,
we
right.
work on.
Yeah.
So can you imagine having the skills to be able to do this for people? Like, it's
Yeah.
really not, it's like a heartbeat away to be able
Yeah.
to, figure all this stuff out. And that's what I mean. Like, I think that, we're, as people, evolving. There's a lot of talk out there about what is consciousness. And I think this is, really where we're going, what we need to be doing to
Yeah.
kind of move in that direction and explore and get, you know, we perceive things in one way, but this is an opportunity for us to see things in a different way. So
Yeah.
it's very useful.
Oh, thank you. Oh, we have got more questions. Right. This is from Joanne. She wants to know what's the main difference between seeing something clairvoyantly and remote viewing.
Oh, that's another good question. So, when you're remote viewing, you are being psychic or clairvoyant. The difference
Yeah.
is that in remote viewing, we actually have a method, and it's like, you actually will have a session where you can look at and study and analyze, and then have other people look at it. The other thing that's different is that we have a target number that you're blind to. So when you're doing a clairvoyant reading, you're sitting in front of somebody and you're asking, they're asking you a question like, "Who's going to be my significant other? Can you
Yeah.
tell me when I'm going to meet them," or whatever. The difference is that we could do the same thing, but we will do a session on it. We have, a whole protocol we follow. So we start with like a cool down to get ourselves ready, and then we just follow the method as it goes. And that's what I teach in the class is how you use this information and put it in a kind of structure type platform, where clairvoyance is, we can do that too, and sometimes we do. But I personally feel that because the focus in remote viewing is to kind of separate that subjectiveness of us, like if you perceive something and you're giving a reading, you're going to go by your personal experience with whatever the symbol is. For example, we were doing a reading and somebody brought up, I think it was me, I brought up something about a rainbow. And, on one level, you think everybody loves a rainbow. Like rainbows they're cool, they're colorful, and they're mystic, and, but if you're doing a reading with somebody and you bring up rainbow and you're thinking, because you've had a good experience about rainbows and beauty, the other person, which in my case, had a traumatic event that happened around a rainbow. It was her father passed away when she was looking at a rainbow. She was at the hospital and she went outside for a break and there was a rainbow. So she always thinks about the rainbow with her father dying. And it's like, when you're remote viewing, you can avoid those types of things. And, so you're less, you're more pure, I think, getting information more purely.
No, thank you for that.
Hopefully that answers.
Right. So that's it. Because you said about finishing early before the 2 hour, didn't you? So it's 1:45 now. Is that okay?
This is perfect timing. Perfect.
Excellent.
Because I actually have to do a remote viewing session at 4:00 or my time.
Oh, right. Okay. So you need to get ready for that.
So it's totally perfect.
Cool. Right. Well, I'll let you go.
But I hope I hear from everyone. Okay, sounds good. And I hope that we hear lots of questions and, maybe if you can't take the class now, you can take it later. And, if you have an issue, with money, I try to keep the prices down. But if you have an issue and you need to make payments or you just can't afford it or whatever, and you really want to take it, we can work something out for sure.
Oh, excellent. Cool. Yeah, I'll pass all that information on. I'll put it in the description and what have you. So thank you so much for coming on. I did resend the email. Excuse me. Resent that email for the guests.
Perfect.
So hopefully you've got that now.
Yeah.
So,
if there's any authors out there, you call me too. We'll see what we can do to help you sell some books or something.
All right then. Right. Well, I've got a couple of updates to do, so I'll let you go and then I'll carry on with this. So massive thank you for coming on.
Sir.
All right.
Thank you for having me.
Michelle. It's my
Thanks
pleasure.
for all the amazing questions. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Oh, right. Thank you, everyone, for the questions and everything else. Like I said, she had to go because she's got remote viewing class that she needs to do in about 10-15 minutes. So it's just a quick update about what's going on. So I did put it in the chat, but I don't know if anyone's seen it. So on Sunday, I'm doing a live stream for Alex Lovelock on his channel. I think that's 8 o'clock, 8 till 9 or 7 till 8. I can't remember. But next week, so I'm doing a lot of Wednesdays now. So next week we've got a paranormal group coming on called Dark Lakes Paranormal. So they're on Wednesday. I think that is 7 o'clock. I'm going to do the Wednesday ones, some of them earlier. Some are 7 o'clock, some are 8 o'clock. But you'll just have to check on YouTube to find out which ones. Then on Friday, I've got Heidi Hollis coming on. She is going to be talking about, bear with me 1 minute. Where's it gone? Oh, well, I don't know. Don't know what she's going to be talking about because I can't find it. Oh, that's not good. Here we go. So Heidi Hollis does Coast to Coast, and Dark Becomes Light. So she's going to be coming on. Or is it Dark? Yeah. Dark Becomes Light, Coast to Coast, AM Paranormal Podcast Network. It doesn't actually say what she's going to be talking about. So, oh, it looks like Shadow People, Shadow Folk. That's her website, shadowfolk.com. So she's on there. So that is 8 till 10. Then at midnight, there's an author coming on called George Lunsford. So he's a guy that took one of my encounters and it's being published in one of the books. So that's midnight till 2 a.m. Then the following week, on Wednesday, we've got Eric Mintle. Then Alex Lovelock, he's coming on this show. And that's it so far. Oh, the following Wednesday after that is Flying Solo Panel. Up to now, there should be 6 of us, and we're going to be it's non-paranormal, so we're going to be talking about music. But at the moment, that is all I can tell you. So, yeah, that's that. I don't think there's anything else. Joe, have you got anything that you want to add before we finish? So, right, the computer's just running really slow tonight, so I'm struggling with everything. So just bear with me. I'm having to use my phone as well. Right, so that's it. Hope you enjoyed tonight. Sorry it was a bit pants at the beginning and the computer keeps shutting down, but just how it goes sometimes. So hopefully see some of you on Sunday night. If not, we'll see you Wednesday. And if you can't make it Wednesday, hope we'll see you next Friday. So have a great weekend, everyone. Speak to you all soon. Good night.